Okay, let's talk about what's going on with this 2009 Honda Metro. This is a 50cc, and what was happening was it was bogging down. I would give it gas and it would slowly mutter up and then maybe top out at 20-25 miles an hour. Now I've got a fleet of these things. I've got another one over there and yet a third one over here. And both of those go around, I don't know, 36, 37 at best. So I started tinkering with this thing, trying to figure out what was wrong with it. Ran across a bunch of YouTube videos and figured I would do my own because I think I found the problem, and it wasn't discussed on any of the other YouTube videos or channels I could try to find to run this problem down. So first things first, the most logical thing to do would be to replace your spark plug. So let me go through a kind of a showing of parts here. Spark plug, air filter, carburetor, fuel pump, fuel filter, and one-way check valve for the fuel line. So I started with the easiest things first. The air filter wasn't terrible, but it was easy to replace, and made sure everything was nice and tight and no air was getting in here, except for where it's supposed to come in from. So that didn't fix the problem. Next went on to the spark plug. Replaced the spark plug with a new one, and I was hopeful, but it too didn't make the cut, so that wasn't the issue. And then I started reading more about adjusting the carburetor and this and that, and thought that might be it. So rather than take the whole carburetor apart and clean it, I got a new carburetor from Amazon, relatively cheap. So between the time it would have taken me to clean that carburetor over there, it was more economical for me anyways to just replace it with a new one. So I replaced that carburetor, and it actually ran worse with the new carburetor in it, and I don't know why. So I went on more forums and did some more research and found that maybe it's the fuel line. There's some kind of blockage between the fuel filter, the fuel pump, and so we went that direction with it. It would run, it would stay idling, so it was getting fuel, just wouldn't go when you give it a gas. So what I ended up doing was just ordering all the things associated with the fuel line. I ordered new hoses. I ordered a new set of, well, it came in a pack of 3 filters, and I've got some spares. New fuel pump, I think, cost me 15 bucks on Amazon. And this check valve. So I couldn't find the check valve on Amazon, so we'll get back to that in just a second. So replacing these is fairly simple. You can look up other YouTube videos and figure out how to take the floorboard off. The fuel filter itself sits right in there, and you can't really get at it without getting the floorboard off. And the fuel pump sits right behind the fuel filter, and it's got a little electronic, a plug on the back of it that you'd have to remove. So replace those things and a new fuel line here. Put it all back together and fired it up, and it is not bogging down. And so it could have been a couple of things. Maybe it was a fuel pump, although this pump was delivering gas. This, possibly it's clogged up in there somewhere. Although I don't really think this was the issue. What I think the culprit is this check valve. This check valve, I use my breath and try to blow through it, and it's very, very difficult to get anything to blow through it. So obviously fuel wasn't passing through here with any ease. Maybe some was getting through, but not very much. And I just left this off when I put it back together, and it seems to be working fine. Now I may go back and buy a new check valve, but I wasn't sure which one to get on Amazon, so I just haven't done that, haven't replaced it. But having this out of the system, out of the loop here, seems to be the culprit. And this is probably the cheapest part of everything I bought. So if you're having problems bogging down, start here. Remove this and see what happens. and then work yourself backwards, I think, to the cheaper parts like these, the filter and the fuel pump. I mean, obviously start with a new spark plug and air filter. Those are cheap parts. Before you get into trying to adjust this whole system, is just probably more trouble than it's worth. I also found that the air intake on the other side of the carburetor over here wasn't quite seated very nicely, and so possibly there might have been some air getting into that. Although I had fixed that problem before I had done the check valve. You might want to check these connections as well and make sure this thing's set nicely and tight and snug. The other thing you might want to look at is below these fuel line returns. Sometimes they slip off and could be drawing in air from those locations. So just check everything and make sure everything's got nice and tight and clipped. So I think that's a problem. I hope it might help you. So the check valve is another possible culprit for these things to bog down. So I wish I had known that from the beginning. Could have saved myself some hours. But now this is back on the road and we're back to our 3 scooters. Hope it helps everyone. See ya.